यब्न जाफर अबुर रजा यब्न जाफर अबुर रजा यब्न जाफर अबुर रजा अबुर रजा या मूसा काज़िम 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 या मूसा काज़िम
तेरा बाबा इमाम सादिक है जिसके दम से है जाफरी सारे दीन और मज़हब सबकी इबादत के हमको सारे उसी के दर से मिले
तू साथ मुश्किल कुशा नूरे जनाबे सैयदा या मूसा काज़िम.
Before Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam was martyred on the 25th of Shawwal, 148 Hijri, the Abbasid Caliph had decided to murder any heir to Imam Jafar Sadiq in order to prevent succession to the imamate. Having knowledge of the sinister plan and to prevent the premature murder of his son, Imam Jafar Sadiq, before his martyrdom, left a will naming 5 individuals as his heirs. These names were the Caliph Mansur himself, Muhammad bin Sulaiman, the governor of Medina, the Imam's sons Abdullah and Musi Kazim, and the Imam's wife Bibi Hamida. Imam Jafar Sadiq knew that as the Caliph was mentioned as one of the heirs, he would not dare to kill Imam Musi Kazim. Thus the young Imam's life was spared, and he succeeded as the 7th Imam.
Imam Musi al-Kazim alayhi salam's imamat lasted for 35 years. However, he was able to perform his duties in relative peace for only a few years. Soon the oppression against the Ahl Bayt was renewed, and the Imam was forced to spend a greater part of his life in prison.
Imam Musa Kazim grew up in a large family that included 6 brothers and 9 sisters. His oldest brother, Hazrat Ismail, had died at a young age. According to divine orders, Imam Jafar Sadiq had declared Musa Kazim to be his successor and the next Imam. However, some followers of the 6th Imam thought that the imamate should be hereditary and that his eldest son Ismail should succeed. These individuals did not understand that it is Allah who chooses or appoints the imams. Fortunately, this division between the followers of Ali Bat has been exploited by the enemies of the true and divinely selected imams until this day by those who wish to fan the fire of dissension in the Ummah.
Imam Musi al-Kazim alayhi salam lived under the tyrannical and cruel reign of Al-Mansur al-Dawaniki, Al-Mahdi, Al-Hadi, and Harun al-Rashid. Al-Mansur and Harun al-Rashid were the most despotic kings. The Abbasid rulers were afraid of the Ahl Bayt's popularity and prestige in the eyes of the people. They mercilessly murdered thousands of innocent descendants of the Holy Prophet and put thousands of others into horrible dungeons, in most cases for life. They also tortured and killed the Ahl Bayt and their followers for mere pleasure.
The Abbasid rulers, like the Umayyads, suspected that the Imams were planning to overthrow them, even though there was no proof to believe this. Neither the Imams had any interest in worldly benefits, nor would their followers take any step against the wishes of their Imam. After the death of Mansur, his son Mehdi was also jealous of Imam Musa Kazim's reputation. He called the Imam from Medina and imprisoned him in Baghdad. However, after being warned in a dream by Imam Ali alayhi salam, he released the Imam and let him return to Medina.
However, in 170 Hijrah, as the most cruel and tyrannical king, Harun Rashid became the ruler of the Abbasid Empire. Oppression of the Ahl Bayt began once again. Under his orders, Imam Musi al-Kazim alayhi salam was arrested for the second time while praying in the Prophet's mosque in Medina and brought to Baghdad against his will. In Baghdad, the Imam was handcuffed and shackled and sent from jail to jail. During the reign of Harun, the Imam passed the greater part of his life in horrific prison conditions. However, some of the dungeon custodians were touched by the Imam's innocence, righteousness, and piety. Harun did not want any softness towards the Imam and ordered the Imam to be sent to the worst dungeon, managed by a very wicked and cruel man, al-Sindi bin Shahak. The Imam remained there until he was poisoned at the orders of Harun.
History shows that as the tyranny against the Ahl Bayt was extreme during the Umayyads and Abbasids, the love of Ahl Bayt was also burning equally strong in the hearts of their followers. And during every era, there were a few who wrote the history of such love despite all the risks to their lives, properties, and families. One such individual who lived during the imamate of 6 Imams, including Imam Musi al-Kazim alayhi salam, was Wahab bin Amr, popularly known as Behlol. Behlol was a well-known judge and scholar who came from a wealthy background. As Harun Rashid began a crackdown against the followers of Imam Musi al-Kazim, Behlol and a few others met the Imam in the prison to seek his advice as to how they could help. The Imam replied with the simple Arabic letter Jim. Each of these companions took their own interpretation of the letter. For example, Jala al-Watan, exile, and Jabal, refuge in the mountains. But for Behlol, it meant Junoon.
Musi al-Kazim alayhi salam had outstanding qualities and merits by which he was distinguished from others. He was the most religious among the men of his time. He prayed all night and remained in prostration during a large part of the day. He was called the ornament of those who spent their nights in prayer, or the ornament of the mutahajjideen.
The Imam was also the most knowledgeable in law, and he was the most versed in the Quran. He was also the kindest and the most generous of men to his family and to the people. He used to search out the poor of Medina during the night and distribute money and food without them knowing who it was that delivered these items. It was the Imam's great divine character that managed to keep his followers going on under the most severe conditions. The 7th Imam's tolerance and forgiveness resulted in his being titled al-Kazim, meaning the one who holds back anger in the face of the acts of the oppressors. He was never heard speaking roughly or harshly to anyone. Even when someone used abusive language, the Imam restrained his followers from any retaliation. He vanquished the enemy with his goodness. He was truly Kazim right up until the time he was murdered in the prison.
At the same time as other Imams, Imam Musi al-Kazim alayhi salam was upright in his relation to the Prophet. For example, during a visit to the tomb of the Prophet in Medina, Harun Rashid tried to boast of his relation to the Prophet in these words: "Greetings to you, Apostle of God. Greetings to you, cousin." Hearing this, Imam Musi al-Kazim alayhi salam moved forward towards the tomb and said, "Greetings to you, Apostle of God. Greetings to you, father." The anger of Harun was quite obvious.
On another occasion, Harun wanted to give Fadak back to the Imam and asked the Imam for its area. The boundaries that the Imam mentioned meant that the entire empire of the Abbasids. Harun Rashid did not agree, but the Imam's message was clear. The area did not mean anything to the Alibat in its actual physical sense, but it was to show to the world that the usurpation of Fadak was actually the usurpation of the Walaya of Alibat and their right to govern according to the wishes of the Holy Prophet.
As the Imam spent a large part of his life in prison and under extreme tyrannical conditions, he could not build institutions to impart religious knowledge as his father Imam Jafar Sadiq and his grandfather Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhim salam had done before him, nor was he allowed to address a congregation. He carried on his mission of preaching and guiding people quietly. However, Allama Chilpi has reported one publication by the Imam entitled Musnad-e Imam Musi al-Kazim.
There are numerous miracles of Imam Musi al-Kazim recorded in many books. Imam Musi al-Kazim alayhi salam is also known as Bible Hawaj, or where needs are fulfilled. The disconsolate people used to go to the Imam for fulfilling their needs. In the present day, they go to his shrine in Qazmain, Iraq, for fulfilling their wishes and prayers. It is narrated that once the Imam heard some little children were crying in a house. When the Imam inquired, he was told that they were orphans and that their mother had just died and now they had no one to look after them. He went inside the house, made 2 prostrations, and prayed to God for her life. Moments later, the woman stood up and was in good health. People who saw this cried out, "Behold, it is Jesus, the son of Mary." Such miracles have been narrated by many who have been healed on their visits to his shrine. Some selected sayings from Imam Musi al-Kazim alayhi salam. The Imam has said, "The affliction is 1 for the patient and is 2 for the impatient."
Next, the Imam said, "There is a proof and logic for everything, and the proof of the intelligent person is his meditation, and the proof of meditation is quietness."
Consultation with the wise advisor is a blessing, grace, guidance, and success by God. Therefore, if the benevolent wise gave you an opinion, refrain from opposing it because this causes destruction.
God's apparent authority are the messengers, prophets, and imams, and the concealed authority is the people's minds.
God is his companion in fear, his friend in loneliness, his wealth in poverty, and his honor for he who has no family or tribe.
Verily, the greatest of people in worth are those who do not consider the world a station and abode for themselves. There is no price or worth of your bodies except the paradise, so do not sell them without achieving it.
A believer is as 2 parts of the scale. Whenever his faith increases, his afflictions increase also.
Your aid to the weak is of the best charities.
He who was condemned with injustice knows its severity.
Whoever wants to be the strongest among the people should depend upon God.
Anger is the key to all evils. Finally, the Imam has said, "Divide your time into 4 parts, namely, a time for supplication to Allah, for the affairs of economy and livelihood, for social contacts with people you trust, who will let you know about your shortcomings,
तेरा बेटा इमाम ज़ामिन है, जिसके कब्ज़े में रात है दिन है, वो खुरासान का है शहज़ादा, है शिफा उसके दर पे मुमकिन है।
तू साथ मुश्किल कुशा नूरे जनाबे सैयदा या मूसा काज़िम या मूसा काज़िम।
अस्सलामु अलैका या موسى بن جعفر